215, and that's how many new podcast subscribers the Marketplace of Ideas needs this week alone to reach its goal of 10,000 by the end of this year, and thus get on alive, surviving, intact into the wilderness of 2012 to spread the seed of in-depth, long-form cultural conversation far and wide to iPods, Zunes, although those are discontinued now, MP3 players and public radio stations everywhere. You can help by reviewing the show on iTunes. That's probably the best way. It gets it the highest boost in profile. Or simply telling a friend about the show, turning them on to the world of the Marketplace of Ideas by way of some of your favorite choice conversations. Or finding out more, simply learning more about what you can do to help the Marketplace of Ideas by signing up to receive the Marketplace of Ideas mailing list. Very easy, very quick. Details on the Marketplace of Ideas front page, findable, as always, at colinmarshallradio.com. That is colinmarshallradio.com. Thanks. So I don't want to start this out too grandly, but I was thinking, sort of pondering on the point of life not long ago, and thinking that the best point I could define was to find a way to get humanity to compensate you for something you do even without humanity's compensation. In other simpler words, to get paid for something you would do without pay. And reading your cartoons, reading your book, it strikes me that you might have some sympathy with that. Is that at all accurate?
Sure. I think the best human activity in the world is creating gifts, creating love. Yeah, and humanity is not always going to respond, but, as Lord Tennyson said, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. So you put it out as a gift, and hopefully it'll be returned. But, there's a paradox, the gift is always in conflict with his own value, but that's why it's a gift. It's not a transaction.
From KCSB in Santa Barbara and Colin Marshall Radio, I'm Colin Marshall, and this is the Marketplace of Ideas. I'm speaking right now, by the way, with Hugh MacLeod, a cartoonist you'll know from gapingvoid.com, his website. And even if you haven't visited gapingvoid.com, you'll have seen his cartoons around the internet, business card dimension cartoons about a lot of things, and I think they're deep enough that I really have many questions about them. He's the author of the book Ignore Everybody and the newer book Evil Plans, Having Fun on the Road to World Domination. Now, it's two concepts that initially would seem to be at odds to a lot of people. The world domination, evil plans, but also gift giving. How do you unite those two?
Evil plans means sometimes in order to give the gift you have to go against convention, I suppose. Right. And so that brings in the concepts of mischief and play, which is countercurrent to the usual serious, boring adult culture, I suppose. So Evil Plans, the title is just me being mischievous.
Right.
It's like calling them evil. They're not really evil. Of course not evil. But it's me just trying to create mischief, I suppose, in order to give the gift, as it were. And I think we all have to do that. It was mischievous for Starbucks to open up a little coffee shop in Pike's Market back in 1971 or whenever they did it. It's mischievous. Creating something new into the world has a kind of mischievous, subversive, fiendish kind of layer to it. Or else you're just recreating what's already been created by other people. You're just imitating. And that's a choice you have to make. Are you going to create something or not? And if you are going to create something, what is it? So, and, I think you have to do that. You have to draw a line in the sand. And to draw a line in the sand is going to create controversy with some people. So you're going to probably make enemies, but they're going to demonify you. So you're going to be evil. So there you go, full circle.
Not long ago, we had Seth Godin on this program to talk about his book, Linchpin. And I know you know Seth. And
Sure.
Evil Plans and Linchpin, I read them and there's a lot of resonances between them. I consider them to be companion pieces in a certain way. Did you ever have that idea that maybe the kinds of things that Seth is right now discussing and the kind of things that you're coming at them from different angles, but there's maybe a central core between them?
Well, I don't want to misquote Seth, but when he showed me the advanced copy of Linchpin,
yeah, he
said this book was written about you or for you or is you or, it's basically, what Linchpin is, I think, is something. See, Linchpin is not my favorite book of Seth Godin, although he says it's his most important book. It's not my favorite because the stuff he writes about Linchpin I'm already familiar with through my own work, I suppose. Whereas Tribes, to me, is I have more to learn from that, or more to learn from Seth, I suppose. So I'm not saying I inspired Linchpin directly, or Seth ripped off my ideas or anything like that. No, I'm saying there's a certain alignment with what we're doing, and it's kind of like there are two sides of the same coin, and that coin is about doing and being something or someone that matters, putting your heart into things. And that's Linchpin was his way of skinning it, and I got my way of skinning it. But we're both at the end of the day singing from the same hymn sheet, I reckon. Yes.
It seems to me that both you and Seth must at some point have had an epiphany that told you that a lot of people are not doing what they're capable of. A lot of people are, in fact, living lives that they hate. And this is something you make a point of in a lot of cartoons. I mean, when did you come to realize that, if indeed that's what you came to realize, that people are really grinding away at things that they shouldn't be a lot of the time?
Oh, I think it's just basic human empathy. When I was a kid doing those lousy summer jobs in corporations, I said, wow, this sucks. And then I got older and realized a lot of other people are in the same situation. And I spent the last 20 years trying to get myself out of that situation with, I guess I'm fairly with some success, I suppose. So, I think we're kind of empathetic to that. And then we have to ask the question, well, if you hate what you do, and you'd rather be doing something you love, well, what has to happen? How do you get there? And I think both Seth and I explore that in our work. How do we get from an okay humdrum existence to one that actually resonates and matters? What needs to happen? What are the stepping stones? What are the action items? What are the moments of insight? What are the moments of clarity? Things have to happen. It doesn't just happen by itself. So both he and I write about that exploration.
One of the things you talk about in the book and on your blog and elsewhere is that the way that you have been working on this particular goal, this very long-term, this sort of lifelong-term goal, is that you began simply putting in the hours regularly, drawing cartoons, drawing them on business cards, drawing them in bars, wherever you happen to be. And since the cartoons are what a lot of people who know your name will know about you, they'll have seen these cartoons being circulated around the internet. I want to know first, when you began doing this, and because they have a very distinctive sensibility right now to them, has it always been the refinement of that particular sensibility in your cartoons? We can talk about what that sensibility is, but from day one, were you drawing with the sort of philosophy you do now?
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, I think when I was younger, they're a wee bit more cynical, a wee bit more the language was a wee bit more obscene. I grew out of that. But there's always kind of, to me, the cartoons were always me trying to express my worldview and me trying to find my own meaning and me trying to find meaning in general. When I first started drawing them, they weren't commercial. I never expected them to be. The commercial factor came later. And because they weren't commercial, I was okay with that. So I just did them the way I wanted to. So they took on a life of their own. They weren't just trying to conform to some kind of pre-existing model. So
in trying to describe your cartoons to people, I fall all over myself oftentimes, because you can say that they inspire people because they seem to, but that doesn't quite capture it. You can say they're jokes, which they sometimes are jokes, but not always, and they're not jokes in the way I normally think about them. It's not necessarily punchline humor, but it does make me laugh, but in a different way as other cartoons that make me laugh. You know, how can you help me describe what your cartoons are?
They're kind of gosh, boy, how do you explain your own jokes? I think they're just kind of tweaky little observations, and they kind of just meant to tweak you in a good way, and then you laugh as they capture a truth that resonates with you, I suppose. I mean, if it does resonate with you, anyways. So I think it just they just kind of say something you already knew, but in a new way, and that creates the aha moment. And that's how, somebody said the thing about cartoons is it doesn't matter how well written they are, and it doesn't matter how well drawn they are, it doesn't matter how well crafted they are, they either work or they don't. And so that's the proof of the pudding. They either work or they don't. So that's how it is, I guess.
There's an early cartoon on your website you have up there as well, gapingvoid.com, which talks about, or which you talk about as the inspiration for the name gapingvoid.com, which has the fellow looking into or approaching the machine in the wall that says gaze into the abyss, 25 cents or something like that.
Yeah, gape into the void, 25 cents.
Gape into the void, yes. Yeah. And it's representative of a combination that I find in your cartoons of both being inspiring in a way, but also having a vicious edge under them. Do you know what I mean? Maybe vicious isn't the right word, but a bite. Is a bite the right way to say it?
Yeah. It's a kind of a juxtaposition between dark and light. If that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah, it has a lightness and a darkness, and the two clash, and that creates the sparks. And that's what makes the cartoons work. There's a negative and a positive.
It's a fascinating element too, that you strike this balance, and you can often move away from even anything figurative. Sometimes there are characters in your cartoons, but oftentimes they're abstract with text, and that's what fascinates me a lot. I mean, how did you find you could move into or away from any characters, anything recognizable, into abstraction and a message, and still make that work?
How did it work? It worked because it did. It was just, well, okay, let's say you have a line. Let's say you have a line, okay, a line you've written, and you attach a character to it, right? That limits it. If the person's female or male, if it's an animal or a person,
right?
If it's in a ranch, or if it's in a city, or in the country, or in an airplane, that limits it. Where the idea it does, but then I was kind of thinking, well, the idea doesn't have to be limited to a certain situation, and so therefore, I take away the elements. I take away the non-abstract elements of the drawing, just to take away the context, because the context is more universal than if I just drew two yuppies in a bar talking.
That's very true, but I wanted to ask this ever since I saw the first of your cartoons that was almost entirely abstract. Do you have specific modernist influences in the way you think about art, or did this
Sure.
Like who? Who what?
Franz Klein, Paul Klee, Achille Gorky, Jackson Pollock, that other guy whose name I can't remember, Saul Bass, that's him, Yeah, modernist. Yeah, sure. Abstract art's always been fascinating to me. I don't consider myself an abstract artist, but I consider myself highly influenced by them. Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, the Bauhaus guys, abstract. I mean, I'm not married to it, but it's such. I grew up in the 20th century, modernism.
Right. It's for me as well a visceral appeal that modernism has.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's ideas behind it. Do you engage at all with those?
I'm not like Clement Greenberg, where I'm trying to make everything more flat and more reductivist. It's more of me trying to just like create almost like a musical tone to the actual image. It has a vibe to it. It has a texture, like a sheet of rain, maybe, or a sheet of music. This is kind of like texture, the sheet of texture, and that creates the vibration, which creates the ambience, which holds the idea, I suppose. I mean, I can make my abstract stuff like really hard and edgy, or like really soft and cuddly, or really playful and mischievous, or I can make it very urbane, or very pastoral, or very. You can create a lot of different emotions and different feelings in that style.
It seems to me that other than drawing your cartoons in the dimensions of a business card, you've never felt that you had to make them a certain way, have you? Is it about what pleases you personally?
Yeah. I mean, there's a dialogue with the rest of the world, I suppose, but I'm not. We are all human beings. We are all social animals, but. I've always drawn cartoons to please myself, and the pleasing other people came later, but by that time, it was already after the fact. It's like, I don't like your cartoon. Well, too late. I've already drawn it. I'll get one or two distractors on the internet saying, all you do is doodle. All you do is doodle. And I say, well, they're just doodles on the back of business cards. It doesn't matter if they're bad or not. It's not like there's this guy sitting at a bar doodling on the back of business cards. It doesn't matter if you don't like them. It's not like I'm building a huge bridge across the Hudson River where if it doesn't work, then it collapses and thousands die. They're just little doodles. So it doesn't matter if history remembers them. It doesn't matter if they don't fit into the canon of Western art. They're just what they are. I don't see where people can object to them, really, other than subjectively not liking them, but who cares if they don't like them subjectively?
This is a lesson that is made explicit as well in Evil Plans, but this idea that don't worry about the commercial implications, don't worry how you're going to monetize this, don't worry how you're going to convince people to like it, just do the thing and let everything else follow. Now, is that the best way to do it in your mind, or the only way you can do it?
I think long term, well, every art, oh boy. I think if you want to do like really interesting work that's original, that's kind of the only way it can be done. Now, if you want to do like less original, less interesting work, well, then you can pander. But that can bite you in the ass as well, because you can do stuff that's commercial, but just because stuff is commercial and has mass appeal doesn't mean the masses are going to like it. So you just waste your time. You just waste your time writing, creating stuff you don't really care about for people that know first and that no one's going to see. So everything's a risk. If you want to like be uncompromising, be uncompromising. If you want to like sell out. Nobody cares. It's like things will happen as a result, and you have to live with it. So there you go. Sucks to be an artist.
And of course, we can never. It's one of those elements that never seems too far from the subject matter of your cartoons. Is that you're going to be in the ground one day as well. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I said this recently. I said, note to marketing idiots, Beethoven's Fit is not a laundry list of actionable items. It's Beethoven's Fit. It doesn't need the MBA coming in telling y'all what's wrong with it. You either love it or you don't. Luckily, it's Beethoven's Fit, therefore it's amazing. But there's a kind of there's always going to be an unknown element of art. Just as there's always an unknown element, there's always a mysterious. There's always going to be a mystery to art. Just as life is always going to be a mystery, no matter what the MBAs tell you, no matter what the gurus tell you. There's always going to be a mysterious element to life, and that's what art is. Try to capture that mystery. And if you start thinking about it like as a laundry list of actionable items, well, it's going to suck.
Right. If you break it down into all those individual kernels, you know, you've got nothing at the end.
Yeah, you can't. There's no instruction. You know, Beethoven did not write his Ninth Symphony by following an instruction manual written by some guy in a cubicle somewhere. Yeah,
right. Definitely not.
That's why he's that's why he's Beethoven. And you're the guy in the cubicle.
It's so fascinating to me that a lot of the audience for your cartoons, it seems to me, and you know, your book is brought out, Evil Plans is brought out in Penguin Portfolio. These are venues with a lot of marketers in the audience, and I don't normally think of things that have, you know, a modernist aesthetic and things that have a dark edge to them and things that are always conscious of the abyss as things that are particularly embraced by marketers. Do you know what I mean? This seems
hell yeah. However, but I seem to have managed to find a way to navigate both worlds, I guess. Just from trial and error and practice, and having worked in advertising for so long, you know, I saw the paradox between, I call it the new paradox, where everybody's expected to be both an artist and a machine. You know, everyone's expected to be Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker at the same time. And that to me is the world we now live in, and actually I don't think it's very easy to do that. So I think you have to make a choice, and I think that's not just now. I think that's always been the case. Do we follow the dark way or the light way? And you know, both have a price. But understand the conflict between light and dark. Well, that's what it means to be human. So I think marketing people are smart and they can understand that, even though they still have to pay their bills.
Right.
There's a paradox, but that's okay.
And it is true. You know, you mentioned the intelligence of marketing people, and from the ones I've talked to, that's very true. And you know, it's not like they can't grasp the conflict between light and dark, but at the same time, the reputation they get for many reasons, whatever they could be, it certainly leads one to believe that they can't. I mean, what's going on there? Why is the perception of marketers different than maybe the reality is, as you find when you reach them with the work you do?
I think with marketing, it's and then if you're being paid to market, you have to do stuff that's measurable. And the thing is, art really isn't measurable, at least not when it's created. Maybe give it, you know, going back to Beethoven. I mean, what is the ROI of listening to a late Beethoven string quartet? I don't know. If I had a boss, I wouldn't be able to show him it, you know. But at the same time, there's a certain kind of value about that. Again, it's a paradox. You know, we respond to our humanity and our own inner potential and our own spiritual potential, but at the same time, we have bills to pay, and so we're always trying to bridge that gap. And that's you know, trying to bridge the gap between our inner spiritual selves and the outside world. And that's always been the human condition. That kind of trying to bridge that gap, and that's never going to change. But once you realize it's never going to change, then you're okay with it, like I am, and my work is okay with it. So away I go, for better or worse.
It seems like you have a pretty strong interest in these type of irresolvable conflicts. I mean, I'm going to get this wrong, but I remember reading many times about something you've said or written about how people will tend to need the sexy job, the interesting job, as well as the work money job. I mean, what's the way you actually put it? I know I said it wrong.
The sex and cash theory.
Okay.
The sexy part of what you do. The creative life has the kind of sexy part, which is like, you know, being the artist rock star. And then the mundane bit, which is actually doing the work, you know, getting up early and cranking it out. It's okay. You know, once you realize that duality is never going to go away, then you just roll up your sleeves and get on with it, but you also allow your heart to live it, as opposed to feeling like the mundane bit is an evil imposition from outside. It isn't. You know, I mean, no one tells me what to draw. I get to draw pretty much what I want. No one's setting any limitations, but at the same time, I still got to get up every morning and sharpen my pencils and, you know, just work for a living like anybody else. And it's not sexy and it's not glamorous. It's just a lot of hard work. But that's okay. I think we all have that in our lives. You know, we have the again, light and dark. We have the sexy bit, and we've got the mundane bit, and we have to, as grown-ups, we learn to marry the two, or else we end up dreadfully unhappy.
It seems like what you talk about in your books and in your cartoons then, and what you seem to possess yourself it's not optimism, but it's a realism so stark that it maybe becomes something happy in a sense. Do you know what I mean?
The first step of freedom is knowing your limitations.
True.
It's the people who don't know their limitations and don't know how to work within their limitations that suffer. You know, like myself, I'm not good at everything, but hey, I'm good at drawing cartoons, so that's what I work with. And as soon as people say, well, you should be good at all that NBA stuff, I go, well, I'm not, so leave me alone. Whereas when I was younger, I might have tried to do both. But now I don't.
It seems to me the danger, then, for people who are coming conscious of their limitations is they come conscious of a few limitations, and then they say, well, forget it. I can't do anything. I don't have any abilities. I've got to just pack it in. Do you see that happen?
Happens all the time, but I mean, again, it's a choice. You know, people say, what's the secret to success? I always go, tenacity. You know, you see people who, I mean, the reason my cartoons work, the main reason is not of any inherent talent I have. The main reason is because I've drawn thousands of them. So I've been able to, I've been able to create a body of work that, quote unquote, works. And if you don't like it, well, it's too late. I'm already successful. I think these people you speak of, I think they just give up too quickly or too easily or too soon.
If you've just tuned in, this is the Marketplace of Ideas, and I'm Colin Marshall. I'm speaking to Hugh MacLeod, a cartoono-entrepreneur behind GapingVoid.com and author of Evil Plans, Having Fun on the Road to World Domination. If when this conversation is over you want to hear it again, visit ColinMarshallRadio.com and find the complete Marketplace of Ideas interview archive there, or find it on iTunes, completely free there as well. Go to the iTunes store, search for the Marketplace of Ideas, and there it will be. Questions, comments, and feedback, send them on to Colin, C-O-L-I-N, at ColinMarshallRadio.com. And if you want to sign up for the weekly Marketplace of Ideas mailing list and keep on top of all things MOI, visit ColinMarshallRadio.com as well. The details are on the front page there of the specific Marketplace of Ideas part of the website. It's much simpler than I'm making it sound. Now back to the conversation on Marketplace of Ideas with Hugh MacLeod for a little more cultural conversation of the depth you demand. What kind of a ratio do you work with? Are you working with as far as material you draw, material you conceive versus material that sees the light of day? I mean, can you get close to 1-to-1, or is it still the mountain produced for every item that reaches the public?
I probably draw 4 or 5 cartoons for every one that that reaches the public, and some I'll go back and rework. So, I mean, most of the stuff I do sees the light of day. I mean, I publish my own work, so I get to decide. Now, about 10% of them are kind of duds, and I throw them away. Most of them get out there in the ether eventually, and then, 20% of them are received very strongly and get passed around and take on a life of their own, and about the remainder just kind of sit there floating somewhere, but that's okay. No, but I don't, it's not like, I've been doing this a long time, so I just do it, and it works most of the time, I'd say, yeah.
Can you predict, I mean, do you know, based on your own reaction, what cartoons might really, what really might strike hard, or does it come as a surprise to you, what affects you versus what affects your audience? Sometimes
I'll come up with what I think is a very strong one, and I'll be right about it. And then sometimes not, but there's no kind of, when I draw the cartoons, I'm just trying to please myself. And then I worry about them, by the time I know about whether other people are pleased, the deed's already been done. There's nothing I can do about it. So you have to make your stuff and get on with it.
But there must have been ones that that you didn't expect to be so much forwarded, so much blogged, so much commented upon, ones you drew yourself that pleased you, but you didn't realize would tap in so well. I mean, what kind of cartoons do that?
I did 2 back in 2004, which have like just gone around the world 50,000 times. One that said the market for something to believe in is infinite, and the other one that said quality isn't job one, being totally freaking amazing is job one. and then another one, a more darker existential one that said the price of being a wolf is loneliness, the price of being a sheep is boredom, choose either one with great care. I don't know. It's hard to know what's going to happen when you draw a cartoon and you post it. I mean, they might take a life on their own, they may not. You can't really control it. All you can do is do your damnedest to make them good.
Yes. The one about the market for the market for something to believe in being infinite. Now, I want to touch on that one again a little bit, because that seems to me to be another resonance between you and between Seth Godin, and something that resonates with me as well. You talk about the value of storytelling as well, and in this book, it seems to line up with this as well. I mean, what is the market for something to believe in? How do you think of that quote unquote market?
Well, you think about, okay, the first thing you have to realize is that we're human beings, and human beings want stuff to believe in, because that's how we validate our brief, painful lives upon this earth.
Yes.
And so we're always looking for stuff that adds meaning to our beings. And whether we're talking about God or Jesus or Allah or Muhammad or Seth Godin,
he's up there certainly.
Well, or just ideas or feelings but we have an unlimited need for that stuff that matters. It never gets old. I mean, think about when you're 17. Think about all the stuff that mattered to you then. Now think of what the stuff that matters to you now and how that's evolved. The evolution's never going to stop. As Socrates said, how do you live the good life? What is a good life? What is good? Is a question that never gets old. That's why we keep on asking it. That's why we never have the definitive answer. So, to me, it was like, well, we need this stuff in our life that makes the whole journey seem worthwhile somehow. And whether we're talking about love or art or marketing or, we want people and products and ideas and whatnot in their life that makes the whole thing seem worthwhile. And if your brand resonates with that, with other people, then you win. The thing about the good life, what Socrates would call the good life, is the great thing about the good life is pretty much everybody wants one. And that's never changed, and that never will change. Now, we can argue about what that means, and what it means might evolve, but the thing is we want to live the good life, with the exception of the occasional sociopath or the occasional psychopath, but we're basically evolved for goodness, I believe. So, okay, now that we accept that we're evolved for goodness, what is goodness? What is good? And that's a question that never gets old. So, at the same time, it's a good question to keep asking, because every now and then, you might have an answer or be close to one.
It is a question that, one's answer, as you said, changes all the time. And the way one formulates the question to oneself, that always changes over time. But for you right now, what do you think, in what terms do you think about the good life? How well can you define that for yourself at this moment?
Well, I don't know, love and kindness. Love and kindness, and also, that's kind of a soft edge, but also there has to be a kind of hard edge to it, where you get up and you work and you produce and you take care of business. You look after the people you care about. To grossly paraphrase Lord Tennyson again, there's beauty and there's duty, and you try to do both, I guess.
It strikes me that, there's the way you talk about the hard edge. I like that phrase, the soft edge and the hard edge of this. Some people might call it the grind, or you might say it's the unsexy bit of the work of the life.
Yeah.
There's a pleasure in that, which I'm sure you would agree with, despite any unsexiness. What is that pleasure?
Gosh, what is that pleasure? the idea that your ideas, your passions exist in the real world, not like a little fantasy cloud you got going about yourself. The idea that what you do exists in the real world, not just in your own little private delusion. Again, it's giving and taking between yourself and everyone else. That constant dialogue between yourself and other people. We are social beings, after all. Art is inherently social, and so is business. So to me, the two aren't that dissimilar. There's a dialogue between the moment of creation and the results that happen afterwards. Either subjective, spiritual results, or kind of external, kinetic results, I suppose.
There's a theme that I feel like I detect in your work, and this is tied so closely, I think, to, as you talk about, the cloud that you can get lost into, or the fact that you can get all up in your head about, your own fantasies, about your desires for your life. It seems like a lot of what I draw from your cartoons or from Evil Plans is that you can't get up in your head. You've got to engage in the real world. You've got to create in the concrete world, or else you'll never know anything. You'll never make anything. You'll never know if you can make anything. Does that at all capture it?
Sure, because the reason Picasso inspired so many people, besides he's bloody brilliant, was he got up every morning, he worked like hell every day, so he had the result. If he just sat in his cafe in Paris and was just prattling on about what a undiscovered genius he was, he wouldn't have done it. The thing is, he worked it. It's funny. Somebody just my first book saying, on the blog, hey, there's nothing in this book we don't already know. Well, yes, sir. Well, if that is true, then why do you still have a job you hate? Why aren't you living it? If you already know it, why aren't you living it? That kind of leap from thought to action. I don't know. I mean, all artists try to bridge that. We have the idea, and then we try to manifest it in reality. And well, how do you do that? Well, that's an ongoing conversation that never ends. But at the same time, you look at when you look at Michelangelo, you see the sculpture, you see the amazing work of art. You don't see the pain in the ass it was to make that thing.
No.
Art requires a kinetic quality to it, and as business does, they always say, great ideas is no good without good execution. Well, that's true for art, and that's true for business. So the paradoxes aren't that dissimilar to me. This idea of business and art are very separate. Well, yeah, they are, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings just trying to do the best we can in kind of bridging all the gaps that are in our lives and all the paradoxes they're in. So. And
you want to take your thoughts, move them into the concrete world, into reality, create something with them. But then, tell me if I'm right about this. The second half of that path is you want that concrete stuff to then go into the thoughts of your audience, right? I mean, you hope for it to come full circle, maybe, as a way to put this? Yeah, yes, exactly. So what I do is I have an idea, I draw it, I turn it into a print or an illustration in a book or a cartoon on my website, and it resonates with people. And then next thing you know, they downloaded it, put it on their desktop, bought the print, put it on the wall. In other words, become full. When a cartoon of mine that I thought of ends up on somebody else's wall, that's the full circle. It reached somebody. It went the whole 9 yards. Does that make any sense? It does. And
but once the ink is dried on the paper, I've already done my bit. Now all I can do is put it out into the world and see what happens. But there's a certain kind of artistic closure once somebody else appreciates it and shares it with other people. Full circle. Yeah, that's right. I think all artists have that. You have the moment of conception and the moment of execution, and then you have the moment of closure when it reaches other people.
Some of the things you've said here, it makes me think you place a lot of importance on simply get it done, get it out there. the task is accomplished. Let the world figure this out. Make sure it's done.
Yeah, right. But unless you do it, it's not going to get done. you have to draw the cartoon first before you can find out whether it has meaning that's relevant to other people or not. But that, again, that's a dance between you and your partner. The partner being the outside world, other people. And again, it's a dialogue. A work of art materially has no intrinsic value. It's just a collection of molecules, just a collection of paint molecules and canvas molecules. But how the meaning of it, how much meaning to how many people, for how long, well, that's where the value is. It's hard to measure, but it's there. And all artists have to struggle with this, Is this resonating, or is this just like, will this resonate, and if so, when and how, to who, or how many? I don't know. I mean, who knows it? But who can know the answer to that when you're actually making it? So you just have to let it go.
Right.
It's a gift. It's a gift, not a transaction. So when you tell somebody you love them, it's a gift. You say, I love you. It's not. You don't say, hey, I told you I loved you. Now you owe me to say something equally weighty back. You don't do that.
Hopefully not, no.
Yeah, so is that making any sense?
It does, and I want to know, if you tell somebody you love them, you can't psychically read their mind to see what meaning they're constructing out of your statement that you love them. But with your cartoons and with your work, you can get a sense of the way people are receiving it. You can get a sense of the meaning people are building on top of it. Or can you? Tell me if I'm even right about that.
You can get fan mail saying, hey, that cartoon changed my life. That's kind of gratifying. But, you can't really measure the value other than kind of human value. But, the best thing in the Bible Jesus ever said was, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And I remember when I first heard that when I was about 10 years old, I went, man, that sucks. Receiving rocks. Giving is expensive.
Right.
But it's when you're giving the gift, when you're giving a gift, you're making your own call what you think the other person will like. He's not telling you what he's going to receive gratefully or ungratefully. That's why it's called a gift, not a transaction. I create gifts. I let the transactions worry about themselves.
It does seem like a healthy way to think about it. And also, you've mentioned Jesus, you've mentioned Socrates, you've mentioned Tennyson. It seems to me that you have a very strong ongoing relationship with enduring wisdom. Is that the best way to put it? Is this this stuff you research? Is this stuff you study to this day?
Yeah, I spent the last 6 months just reading everything I can on the Roman Empire.
Oh.
I had good teachers at school. The funny thing about the enduring stuff, the old stuff like Socrates or Plutarch or Pliny or Virgil or Shakespeare, it's been around a long time. And, being a writer and knowing other writers, most stuff vaporizes, bloggers, most stuff you write vaporizes after a week. Even the good stuff vaporizes after a week. But here's some people writing stuff that still has meaning after 2,000, 4,000 years or 500 years, whatever. You kind of go, why? Why did that last? And then you dig into it. You kind of go, okay, I can see it. So there's a lot of rich meat there.
Kind of an antidote to some of the world we live in today.
Yeah, exactly. And not everything is going to resonate with you. Not everything you do is going to resonate, but not everything you read is going to resonate. But the stuff that does, hopefully, is good enough where it'll stick with you forever. And then you'll have, again, the dialogue continues with yourself and with other people. So, I was an English major at school, so I read a lot, and I still do. So I guess that stuff's going to creep into the work somehow.
Now, Socrates and Plutarch and Pliny and the names we've mentioned, these are thinkers who dealt with what people call big ideas, with what I consider to be some of the most important questions humanity has ever encountered or grapples with today. But they're forbidding often to people. People, they have these old books they don't necessarily want to open. They think it's going to be hard or dark or scary or arduous or whatever you want to put it. You deal with a lot of the same ideas. You put them you put them in. I'm looking at Evil Plans, this yellow book with this cartoon character on the front, and your cartoons are so approachable visually, and some might even say you probably hate this word from hearing it applied to you. Some might say whimsical, but
yeah.
What is the value? What is the interest? And I know we've talked about the light and the dark balancing, but in terms of presenting this stuff in a way that is light, that is fun, that is amusing, that brings a smile to your face, even as it talks about the void you can gape into.
Well, do you read Charlie Brown when you're a kid?
Indeed.
Right. Well, there's a reason why every time Lucy pulls away the football.
Oh yes.
You see, I mean, I can see like some 10-year-old writing Charles Schultz a letter. Hey Charles, why don't you do a cartoon where Charlie Brown draw a cartoon where Charlie Brown gets the girl, hits the baseball, kicks the football. Wouldn't that be cool? But of course it wouldn't be, because that's not the human condition. The human condition is we're born into this world and lots of footballs get taken away from us. but that has always, it was ever thus. The Greek philosophers and the Shakespearean actors and we and people of our generation, people in 1,000 years, we're going to all have that happen to us. So, the universal themes, well, you may not like to read about them, but they're still going to govern your life. And all like somebody like me can do is I can't create those ideas, but what I can do is interpret them and hopefully make them more palatable and understandable to people, I suppose.
And is there an advantage inherent in the type of cartoon form you use to do this, or is it just that's the form that you like, that you work well with? It's the form suited to who you are.
Well, that's my drawing style, so I work with that. I mean,
right.
If I drew more like Degas or Picasso or a New Yorker cartoonist, would it be different? Yeah, but that's not me. I just draw me, I live and die by that. All I've got is me. All you've got is you. All he's got is himself, herself, and that's what you work with. That's what we all work with, is our own selves, and there is no other person out there that you should, that there is no other ideal self that you should be other than yourself. You just have to learn how to work with yourself and be yourself. I think we all want to do that, don't we?
I do think so, and this brings me to something I definitely want to touch on finally, which is that the way you just said, I'm all I have, you're all you have, he's all he have, and the way we've talked about needing to be aware of the human condition, needing to not blink at the collision of light and dark. This sounds like the behavior of the type of person you describe in this book, Evil Plans, as a waker. I mean, do wakers is their message be aware of this stuff? Is that a waker's message at any waker's core?
I don't think wakers have a message. I think wakers have a talent. They just have that human effect on you. You just feel more alive. You just feel more alive and switched on around them than somebody who sucks the life out of you. and it's an admirable quality, and that's who I seek in my life. And they don't have to be rich or famous or successful. They can wakers exist throughout all strata of society, and that's who I like. I mean, like somebody like Doc Searles, he's a waker, and you may hate his guts. Doesn't matter. You're gonna feel more alive and with it and switched on after half an hour in his company than you will hang out with some drunk in the bar. That's just reality. So it's not like wakers. All wakers are people who like people, like being alive and like goodness, and that's what they do. And there's no laundry list. They just do it. Whether we're talking about a waitress can be a waker, a philosopher can be a waker, a famous artist can be a waker, a bus driver can be. I think it's what we all should aspire to be. There's some people are better at it than others.
You want to wake people up and be woken up? Yeah,
kind of like a circle thing. It is kind of, again, this kind of human dance that we've been asked to join into. at the moment of our birth, I think. Yeah. So, and we can either join in the dance or we can ignore the dance. But we ignore the dance, then life dries up and we have nothing. That's what St. Paul said. Without love, I am nothing. A waker is somebody who, to me, is somebody who loves their basic DNA and their basic reason for being, regardless of how much money they make or who they know, or it's just like there's inherent goodness in people that some people can articulate better than others, or some people feel it better than others. But I believe it's within all of us, potentially.
The name of the book, once again, is Evil Plans, Having Fun on the Road to World Domination. I've been speaking to cartoonist Hugh MacLeod of gapingvoid.com. Hugh, thanks so much for taking the time today.
You're very welcome, sir.
If you'd like to learn more about Evil Plans and Hugh MacLeod, visit gapingvoid.com. This has been the Marketplace of Ideas, and I've been, as usual, Colin Marshall. You can hear this conversation again at either colinmarshallradio.com or on the iTunes Store when you search for the Marketplace of Ideas. At both places, the complete interview archive is, of course, completely free. The website of Ben Althouse, the man who makes our theme music, is at benalthouse.com, and you can sign up for the Marketplace of Ideas weekly mailing list, giving you updates on current and future Marketplace of Ideas conversations plus related internet interestingness at colinmarshallradio.com. Details are there on the Marketplace of Ideas front page. Questions, comments, and feedback, send them all along to Colin, C-O-L-I-N, at colinmarshallradio.com. It's Colin at colinmarshallradio.com. And whatever you do, hope to have you here next week for more cultural conversation of the depth you demand on the Marketplace of Ideas.